This is a colossally big map, and it's going to be home to an immense amount of suffering. Not sure at which point the game is going to break, but we're going to find out. Now, humans don't like orcs, and elves, they don't like dwarves. So I've placed the races that don't like each other on the far end of the map from each other. As you can see, there's a lot of room to grow. Now I just need these beautiful morons to get to work and start themselves some empires. The humans, as per usual, are hard at work lounging on the beach.
I just feel like they're not grateful. You know, I gave them water.
Luckily for me, I can actually force them to create an empire. And I obviously need to do that quickly because they're hard to find on this giant map. Okay, everyone had a sprinkling of empire juice, so now they should be going on to make their empires somewhere in the world. They're just picking a nice spot. The orcs are first on the board, one player. The elves are next, way up there. There's the humans waiting on the dwarves. They do have shorter legs, so it takes them a little longer to get to where they're going. Okay, I got the achievement. The dwarf wanted to go all the way below the human. That's fine. Now that everyone is a little bit established, I'm just going to expand their empires manually just a little bit. Let's face it, they can use my help, and I'm really good at doing this kind of stuff. The goal now is to add about 10,000 characters for each race into their respective empires. Then we're going to find out if that breaks the game. So basically, I go like this for 200 seconds, or until the population reaches about 10,000. That was even less fun than you think it was. Now I have to do it 3 more times. Starting to worry this is going to be too many idiots. We're at 19,000 now, and the game's already losing performance. But it's going to suffer immensely too today. Oh, you know what? When you zoom way out, it gets buttery smooth again. It's also important to note that these many idiots cannot die of old age, so they're going to suffer for a long time. There's 40,000 idiots in this world.
Keep counting.
The big question basically is whether or not the game will allow this. Okay, so far so good. It looks like the idiots got absorbed into their empires. Their borders look a little condensed, and there's no way I'm zooming in on that because the game is going to crash. Actually, so far they're holding on pretty good. I don't know if they can support 10,000 population each, but they will slowly push out in all directions. Kingdom expansion is off, so this will be the only empire there will be. They won't branch off and have other elvish empires. So eventually these 4 empires will grow to encompass the whole map and eventually fight each other because they're going to run out of room. Because I feel like they kind of already have. You might want to push those borders out, guys. And I would do that sooner than later. There's going to be a doom cloud spawning in above you. And people aren't going to die of old age, but they certainly can starve to death and die from wars. So we're going to keep an eye on that population. Speed is up to 5 for now. The elves so far are winning. I think they reproduce the fastest. And I do also have sonic speed if I really want to speed things up. This way the clouds start to look like bullets whizzing by. Now I know the empires still look fairly small, but they're actually quite large and getting bigger. They're working like ants to expand in all directions. So far, the only thing that's really happened in this colossal world of suffering is we lost about 300 people to starvation. Okay, the humans just completely imploded, so they're down to 171 people for reasons I don't understand. They perhaps starved to death. Okay, we might have had a few pretty big collapses because the elves also lost about 99% of their population. They're down to 130 as well.
A candle that burns twice as bright burns half as long.
Looks like everyone followed suit. They just cannot support that big of a population, so we'll just kind of let them build from here. But let me tell you, it was a lot of fun spawning in 40,000 idiots. The humans have already declared war on the dwarves because they were smart enough to start empires beside each other, so they're already fighting each other despite the fact they have 12 people. But that's fine. If that's the way they want to play it, they're allowed. I think the dwarves just took a pretty significant loss. I don't know why they'd ever set up their empire there, but I don't care. I think the orcs overall were the smart ones this time because they're up here with the most space. They can set up into a thriving empire before they ever have to deal with anyone else, and they have all this real estate because the dwarves are stupid. In fact, the dwarves are already eliminated entirely. That was a lot quicker than I thought it would be, but now the humans have all this space to grow into, and Zac Efron is just going to continue to thrive in between the other two. Wait, I think the humans... Okay, hold on a sec. Let's slow that speed down. Because if I'm not mistaken, these are humans on their way to kill the orcs with wooden sticks. Or actually, these might be orcs returning. I think it was actually the orcs that sent out to destroy the other guys because they have sticks, and orcs really like sticks for some reason. Well, this one actually already has a copper spear, so they are developing pretty quickly. I was on light speed too. So for some reason, the orcs came down and destroyed the dwarves. I think the humans helped a little bit, but if you don't have to destroy them yourselves, let the orcs do it. And they already have rare weapons. I'm pretty proud of these orcs. They walked all the way across this enormous world just to destroy the dwarves for no reason at all. I don't think that benefited them yet. Normally I would reward them, but I really want to try and let this play out without too much of my interference. So we'll perhaps go back to sonic speed for a sec and let them continue to develop for a little while. There's only a population of about 100 each. The orcs are sitting at the edge of their territory with one of their armies. They're the ones that are thriving the most so far. Not entirely sure why, maybe because they're the simplest. But I am expecting them to go on a little raid before long because that seems to be just what they do. And this really puts it into perspective. The orc army is 130, the humans have 75, the elves have 46. For some reason, they're struggling. But their armies are looking pretty well equipped. They do have copper armor and wood bows and stuff. So they might actually be able to defeat the orcs because they mostly have copper weapons and the occasional good spear. And this one is still walking around with the wooden stick, so despite their superior numbers, we might have a quality versus quantity. Humans are also doing well. He has an epic weapon, it's a copper greatsword. So if they have lots of that kind of stuff kicking around, they're kind of in between the two maybe. They do have sticks, but they do have good weapons. Curiously, as time goes on, the elves just continue to dwindle in numbers. I'm not sure what's happening to them or why they're not thriving. They have all the resources they could ever want in this world, and they're just dying. Okay, and we've got a war about to start because the orcs just declared war on the elves, and there they go. And they stopped abruptly along the way. Oh, because the elves showed up. Okay, the elves are going to give them some resistance, but I think the dwarves are just going to have too many numbers. The elves are dropping quick. And they were already naturally dying before the war, so this doesn't bode well for our woodland friends. But I'm really happy with the orcs' initiative so far. They're just going after everyone in a hurry. They're not stopping. So Ancient Hera is down to 24 people, and they can't sustain any population at all, though maybe that will kind of shake them into action. Can you guys, yeah, it looks like we can support 24 people. The population is growing again. And apparently that was all the orcs wanted. They just wanted to kill a few of the elves and go back to doing whatever they do, like piling up giant rocks. Wow, look at everything they're learning so far. These are the humans, but they've got all sorts of stuff they've learned. Their knowledge gain is actually higher than when I gave them before the genius trait. The elves so far are kind of stupid in comparison, and I think smarts are going to win out the day. The orcs are only level 28 culture level. They're not very smart, but they're just reproducing quickly. And they're once again going to fight the, I was going to call it an army of elves, but there's like 6 of them. Don't worry, I believe in you. Just shoot them with your bow and arrow a lot. You're almost there. Yep, you got it. I call it a war, but like 1% of the orc army even has to get in there, and then they get bored and wander away into the woods again. But they never actually push into the civilization, so given enough time, they might be able to blow up. I do think right now that the humans, with all of their rare knowledges and knowledge gain going on, will probably come out as the dominant force in this world. They're not quite as big as the orcs yet, but they're gonna grow so quickly from here and utilize everything they have much better. I look away for 2 seconds, and the orcs plow right into the center of the elves. It looks like they killed a king already, and then they killed the next king also on top of that, and they're probably about to kill the next one. It's a dangerous time to be a king if you're an elf. Those orcs really are a bit of a disaster for any world they're in. Oh, there's a new king, and he's dead too. Well, that's what you guys get for not building a better empire, really. And the orcs were smart enough to light everything on fire, so that should do wonders for the world, including lighting the orcs themselves on fire. He has skin burns, but he's very well fed. Alright, well, it was no surprise that the elves weren't going to make it. There's a pretty big fire going on there, but yeah, the humans are catching up to the orcs in a big hurry, and I think they've just got better quality everything. So we're just going to go back to high speed. There's the ruins of the old dwarves. The orcs do have a pretty cool looking building. Then after 409 years, the humans are up to a level 44 culture, whereas the orcs are only up to level 30, and they have no rare knowledges because they're just stupid orcs with slightly better weapons, though. They are getting, well, that one still got a stick. Well, it only took 400 years for 2 races to go entirely extinct. The world is on fire, and we're just waiting for the humans and orcs to slowly fight each other. The fire didn't make it nearly as far as I thought it would. Although, to be fair, that is actually a really big area because this is a colossal map. The humans have taken over. They now have a population of 406, and they've got lots of room to grow still. The orcs have fallen behind, mostly because they're stupid. Although suddenly the human population numbers are dropping because I think they're starving because they don't have enough farms. They built basically one to support their entire population. They have lots of room to grow into, and there's lots of berries around. They just kind of don't. I'm really impressed with all the knowledges the humans have. Like, they're able to do basically everything, and they have the maximum amount of rare knowledges. They're level 58 culture. They can do everything except learn how to feed themselves over 1,000 years of existing. But this one even actually has a mithril ring, which I think is very, very advanced. It is broken, but they're getting very good stuff. Okay, and the orcs are maybe catching up when it comes to technology. This one at least has an epic, a perfect spear, which actually is going to give him a very big boost over some of the other idiots they're running around with. This one even has a legendary weapon.
Oh my god.
It's still just a spear, but they stole it from Ancient Hera apparently. So he managed to steal it from the elves, but he took it, and that's crazy good too. Okay, the orcs are actually doing really well with weapons. They must have lots of weapon technology because there's lots of epics and even legendaries. I think we're doing pretty good overall. We've lived through about 1,000 years and we've had 42,000 deaths. Mostly from hunger, but it's not my fault they don't know how to eat. Okay, it's been a long time and they're mostly sticking to their respective areas. I think that's because kingdom expansion is not on, so I'm going to turn that on at this point. That way they're going to spawn new kingdoms elsewhere, like this, kind of satellite kingdoms as we'll call them. They're going to take up more of the map and grow bigger armies. Then once they naturally spread out on their own, we may just put them all back into one big conglomeration, and then they can hopefully fight each other at that point, or whatever it is they want to do. But this is already working out much better because they're going for much more real estate, and I think they're advanced enough that if they do spawn more empires like that, they're just going to end up taking them back over anyway. Because these guys are, I think, basic idiots. Well, maybe not, because they branched off from the main one because they've already got steel bows, which isn't something basic idiots have. But the population is already growing, so this is perfect. They're basically spawning new villages of the same empire or kingdom, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, the map's going to start to run out of real estate fast. Okay, the population for the humans already jumped up to over 1,000. They're taking up much more room on the map. The orcs are not far behind. I turned rebellions off, so these kingdoms should not rebel within each other and fight. It should only be humans fighting orcs, as I understand it. Look at the amount of knowledge gain they have now. That jumped all the way up to 30. And they know pretty much everything about everything. Whereas the orcs are getting pretty smart, but they're not nearly as smart as the humans, but they do still have a lot of knowledge themselves. Their army is 550 compared to the humans, also at 550, so their armies are a similar size. It's just a matter of who's got a better army or uses them strategically. Maybe it would have been better to start with kingdom expansion for all races, but just without the rebellions. That way they could kind of expand like this. Because now they're really expanding, and we probably still have dwarves and or whatever the other one was that died. It's been so long that I forgot they existed. The world moves on quickly once your village is annihilated by orcs. Pretty sure they're not going to be super thrilled about the humans putting their little satellite territory right on their doorstep. Can't imagine that's going to go over super well. They've been pretty consistent in their growth though. The orcs are still a little bit behind, but they are stupider. But they're taking up, humans are still winning territory and population wise, but that can change in a hurry. Okay, they've literally built up to each other's borders now, so they're even kind of infringing on each other's territory. The peace won't last long, but the fact that they are both fairly smart advanced civilizations means they might be less prone to war because they're smarter enough to know that that's probably not beneficial. Until it is. But don't you worry, there's a war coming one way or another. Wow, those orcs really have poor karma for all the wars they started. That lightning strike hit very close to the center of their civilization. So in the first 1,000 years, they had an empire basically as big as their sign. In the following 400 years, they took up basically the entire map now. It's just sort of a little battle for the rest of the free real estate, and then they're just going to grow within their borders until they decide they want each other. It's sort of like a yin-yang, but if everyone just murders each other and dies really quickly. They're growing so quickly though. They're up to a 2,200 size army. Their knowledge is everything's probably getting to about as high as it can get. Look at how equipped their army is though. It's all epic stuff, mithril stuff, adamantite stuff. I mean, even if it's an adamantine bad sword, I wouldn't want to get stabbed with it. So right now I'm predicting the humans have an advantage, but then again, I don't know anything about anything, as we learn pretty much every day. They are also fishing this nice lake in the middle that I left for them, so it's nice to see my very crude map design is appreciated. Population is growing fast overall. We're up to about 11,000 people. Curiously, as we're getting close to 10,000 population each, the orcs have actually caught up and are about to surpass the humans in population. Also, the game doesn't love this many things moving around like they are, but they built some awful nice statues. And equally nice armor. This guy has adamantite epic armor. But the orcs were officially the first ones to hit 10,000 population. Well, given that the game performance is starting to be a little bit restricted, I think it's a great time for a war. It's been 1,700 years, and I don't know when the last war we had was, but it's definitely been a while, so we're gonna start you to start a war with you, and those are pretty big empires, so I don't know where the battle's going to start or where it's going to end. I just see huge swaths of armies moving around. This one might be going straight in for battle there. There's just going to be a lot to keep an eye on. I do think this is the orcs' main army because they're nearest to where they started their civilization, and their army seems to be, well, somewhat very well equipped. You can actually kind of see the good ones because they'll have something special in their hands. Like this guy's holding like a cross, which is an iron spear, but he's got adamantite elegant stuff. Okay, the orcs just killed a human here officially. So yep, here we go. They're starting. I really have no idea who's going to win. The humans are losing population quicker because the war started up here. I didn't even notice, but look at those armies moving in. So we'll see if the superior human technology can defeat the orcs. I think the armies were of a similar size. Orcs had the numbers advantage. I think there's a giant one here somewhere. Either way, they're both very well equipped. I want the big boy. Yeah, this one, giant. He's got a wooden stick though. They equipped their giant with a wooden stick. Then he died a horrible death. But checking in on the border, yeah, there's lots of skirmishes going on the border. So far, I don't know if anyone's made significant gains, but it's only been a moment. The orc army is pushing in. I think the humans have more ranged weapons. So I think that helps because they all just clump up like this and then the humans can just rain doom down on top of them. But the orcs might be able to win. They might be bigger and stronger physically, so it's anyone's guess what's going to happen. Even I don't know. They did just blow up in a pretty big swath of territory, and I think that was human owned before. As for what's happening down here, it's hard to say. They're just kind of trading territory in places. No one's taken a real advantage over the other yet. They're pretty evenly matched. I think we should favor this guy. Look at that sword. It even stands out from down here. There's a huge mass of orcs here. But I think their trouble is they try and push in like that, and there's so many arrows raining down damage that it really takes a lot of numbers for the orcs to overwhelm the humans at this point. 1,000 lives have been lost in the Great War, but there's going to be a lot more than that by the end. Humans are definitely taking more losses though, so the orcs might have the advantage. And I think they're also just hitting with superior numbers. They just all mob in a giant mass. I do still think the humans can do more with less, but at the rate they're losing, it's not looking great for them. Because the humans have lost like a quarter of their population, the orcs have actually gained population. And this whole thing is definitely orc destruction, and they're still piling in. I can't zoom in on all of this because the game won't. That's a huge migration. That's where the orcs are winning. They're all grouping together to go to war, whereas humans, their armies are still spread out everywhere. And that doesn't work to repel an invasion. Oh, the humans are grouping up down here though. Maybe their numbers are just in the south, whereas orcs are in the north. Because that's a fairly important building to orcs, and the humans are maybe about to destroy it because there's not a lot of resistance. Yeah, the fundamental difference I can see is the humans have armies scattered all throughout everywhere, whereas the orc armies are all right here. That's why the screen is orange. But the humans did destroy that very important building of the orcs. I don't know how much of a difference that tangibly makes, but it probably makes a pretty big one. This up here, though, I think is where the biggest, most decisive battles are going to be fought, because there's a lot of orc army here, a lot of human army. So that's where the big numbers can shift. And so far, mostly just everyone's on fire, but that's the kind of thing I like. Okay, they lost a bannerman there, so I think they lost an army, a squad. I don't know what you call it, but he did. Okay, a few villages were destroyed, both human villages. The orcs are definitely the ones making ground. So I've turned things back up to super speed just to see which way the tide is shifting, but you can see by the numbers, that alone tells you everything. The orcs have actually gained numbers through this entire war. Humans lost half their population. And the orcs just keep piling in with more and more army. Yeah, things like this are hard to defend against unless you have a similar size army, and the humans are just too scattered to bother. They're just slowly losing because they throw a little army against them, then they die, and then it happens again and again and again. And I don't know what's going on here, but they like shift their armies back and forth. I don't know if that's intentional or that's just the way the game works. Either way, lots of things are dying and I'm happy. The humans might be a little more mobilized suddenly. The whole orc thing is up here. Humans look like they're kind of gathering down here. They're not very aggressive though. They push up to the edge and then fall back. But there is a big human army here that could destroy a lot of orc stuff. They're pushing in, but they're getting some resistance. They just need to dive right in. If they pushed right across them, they could probably take all that, but I think by then the orcs might have them anyway. You know what? I'm going to make a bold prediction right now. The orcs are going to win, considering humans have lost about 70% of everything, and the orcs have actually gained numbers somehow. Plus, they're taking the territory away. And I feel like they're not the type of creatures that can be reasoned with. If you ask them nicely to stop, I don't think we can. I could make peace, but I'm not going to, because that's not the point of this world. The point of this world was to see who would win. For the most part, this is what the map now looks like. The orcs destroyed everything human and started building some of their own little orc buildings, pushing the humans further back into their corner where their numbers are getting destroyed because they've got to fight orcs across this entire line. And the orcs really like their big armies, so they just put them all together and march right through the defenses. Then light things on fire. Human civilization suddenly is rapidly falling. Their capitals fell, so this all turned into no man's land again, or neutral territory rather. Great Ig is kind of in trouble now. They're completely surrounded by 15,000 orcs. And they've got about 200 population left, and the orcs do not like them much at all. And the big army is literally on their doorstep, so they're just going to march right on through this in a hurry because that's a lot of damage coming in, because these guys even have huge stone spears. So you know they mean business. All right, the big army's moving in, and Great Eag is now completely dead. I think humans, well, there's a few boats left, but I wouldn't land on this continent anymore if I was a human boat. The orcs seem satisfied with what they've done, so they're going back to wherever it is they come from. Now, the big difference here is rebellions was off. If I were to turn rebellions on, this would start splitting very quickly into multiple orc factions, and they would all fight each other. But it's not as fun when you have that on. I like to see a unified great empire. But now we know we can comfortably do 20,000 creatures. I'm sure we can do a lot more.